And now, Mr. Secretary General, we'd like to invite you to just reflect a bit on what you've heard and then to close out the session, because we know you're really busy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank all distinguished civil society leaders who have made an excellent contribution this morning in person, through video, through telephone, and I'm very much touched by your strong commitment. It's a real collaborative discussions that adds meaning to this day. Hearing from you, I'm hopeful. One can be extremely excited today. We can be hopeful, but most important thing from today, today will be how to translate our agreement into action. I've been pushing world leaders, let's agree, let's agree. This, we have some sheets of paper. This should be honored by political commitment. If not, it's just some paper, very well written, you know. But all this good meaning should be translated. That's what we have to do. That's what I'm asking you. You are the ears and eyes and voices of our world. So I'm asking you all to be vigilant and forceful and straightforward. Normally, we have all titles, you know. Some of you have titles, official titles like a professor or something like this. But your official titles are normal. This is private, informal, unofficial titles, while we have official titles. Official titled people have a lot of restrictions, I cannot speak all what sometimes I have to speak, I want to speak. Sometimes I am pushed back very strongly by media or political leaders. As you see during these few days from a certain country in Africa, when I decide something, there's always pushback, repercussions. But you are like kings and queens without crown. Of course, you said you are under attack. There are many civil society leaders who are detained, arrested, and sentenced to a jail, or very, very dangerous. But we are the ones, human rights defenders and United Nations and many countries are defending you. So let's work as one team. And I think business community, private sector, should also be fully engaged. Without the private sector's full engagement and changing their business operations toward the low carbon economy and climate resilient path, that we will never be able to do that. So I'm asking you to speak out. There are many issues you raised. First, I think we have to have resources. More importantly, financial resources to help mitigate and adapt by the developing countries who do not have means. It's unfair that those countries who have not contributed much would be most hit and do not have any support. When we were calculating all this, very interesting, calculating this global greenhouse gas emission rate, how many percentage this country is emitting. When we added up 20 countries, I was informed that, well, SG, we have 20 countries. Wow, that's good. Then how much percentage have we reached to reach 55%? 0.0%. What do you mean by 0%? It's a 0.00%. There are many countries whose rate in global calculation counts 0.00. 0.00. Many countries, particularly like Marshall Island, all these small island Pacific countries, very vulnerable, poorest countries, they're just nothing, non-existence. They exist as a country, they exist to be affected only, not causing. They're not causing anything. And only with the China and the United States, two countries, they added up 39%. That's the point where we've been adding up. Now we have a 70%, 98 countries, as I said this morning, but we'll have to go. We have about just one country less than 50%. Out of 197 state parties, 98 today. We hope that Japan will do it very soon. Anyway, that's what I really wanted to say. I am very much committed until last day of my mandate to work for this mobilizing $100 billion by 2020. And in Marrakesh, we'll have to have a good formula how we can mobilize $100 billion. And some of you said the education. There is a very important point. Then when you try to convince adults, already educated, or whatever positions they may be, it's very hard to convince them because they have their own way of thinking. If we teach them from elementary school children, students, middle school, high school, college, on climate change and importance of sustainable development goals, then that's the best way. That's the best way. Most effective, but it takes time. We have to long-term. That's why yesterday we've been discussing this matter. So I'm going to instruct our country director, resident coordinators all around the world to negotiate and urge the countries, member states of the United Nations to put some curriculum. If not every day, at least once a week, they should be taught climate change and how they can contribute as young citizens when they are grown up for this world. That's what we are also doing. We have a very good frameworks. This Addis Ababa Action Agenda for financing for development. We have a very good one for Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. When I heard from our representative from Bangladesh, I immediately thought about disaster risk. Bangladesh, there used to be tens of thousands of people who were killed during monsoon season. In 2008, when there was a cyclone Nagis in Myanmar, in just 2-3 days, 230,000 people died. Can you believe? All this inundation just swept the people to death. The Bangladesh used to be, India used to be that countries. Just every season, every year, they have monsoons without unwanted visitors. Tens of thousands of people. Now, with the wise investment in disaster risk reduction, Bangladesh has reduced the number of people death drastically. Now some thousands or like this. Even thousands are too many. But when it comes to 100,000, there is usually death in any way. So disaster risk reduction, we have a framework. Now we have a sustainable development. Climate change is a part of this, SDGs, number 13. Then we have a special, separate agreement. This is a binding agreement. So we have to be hopeful. We have to be proud to have achieved this one. I really appreciate on all your strong commitment. So just to speak out, just before concluding, I'd like to draw your attention about this conference room 8. You are sitting in a very meaningful, historic conference room. Just look at the panels around this. You will see something very meaningful to the course we have been working, we are going to work. I am inspired. I'm inspired by the foresight of our forefathers, founding fathers, when they designed this one. This is not normal design. This was a design not for just a beautiful panel. You see all different kinds of plans. When United Nations was founded in 1945, our founding fathers knew that there is something very seriously important one. So they gave this already very philosophical meaning, very visionary designs. That's why when I first convened the Climate Change Summit meeting in 2007, I've been thinking where I should convene this meeting. Of course, you know, the big meeting was held in the General Assembly chamber. I invited some 30 world leaders representing big emitters, representing small island developing countries, mid-income countries, all representative. Big countries, small countries, medium countries. They are the ones who can really be the driving force and agents of changes. So I invited 30 leaders here, exactly this room. I drew their attention. Just please look at around. You are sitting in this room. This has already a meaning. It's something like you are reading a book in the library, big classical old libraries where all these ancient, books are stored. And then let's be inspired by the foresight of our founding fathers. They have already given us instruction. You should do this one, even though they were not able to do it at that time. But now, with all this awareness and importance and impact which is now coming to us, we have to work. Let's work together again to make this world better for environmentally sustainable for our succeeding generation. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You notice our Secretary General did not follow a word of the notes that we carefully wrote for him, and we were rewarded with reflections and inspiration that were really special. And so on this historic day, in this historic room, on behalf of all of us who work here in the United Nations, we thank you, the kings and queens without crowns, for joining us from near and from afar. And we'd like to thank Susan Altsner and her colleagues in the Non-Governmental Liaison Service. We'd like to thank our Department of Public Information, led by Christina Gallach. We'd like to thank our fabulous conference services and also our interpretation services, who actually enabled us to have quite a complicated meeting without any little glitches. Thank you all. We'd like to thank those of you who helped to put the event together. I'd particularly like to thank our colleague Cynthia Scharf and also our colleague Haldor Thorgirsen and the team who've now taken over the climate change support work. But most of all, in a rather emotional moment, I'd like to thank our Secretary General once more as he leaves to get on with his day. Please enjoy this moment, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.